All right. Hey, Paul. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Fab. Hi, everybody. How are you? Fab, why are you wearing the same shirt as me?
I don't know. I'm trying to look cool, Paul. You know
Oh,
that.
I'm having so
What's that?
I'm having some water.
Nice. All right. So today we'll talk about something very salesy, which are spiffs and commissions,
Yep.
but more specifically, how to use them to kind of incentivize good behavior. And that question came from some group that I'm in, but the reality is I've also seen them happening, and I've seen them how they're not. It's like easy to see to create a spiff, like to just be like, hey, we're gonna whoever does the most calls gets like an extra bonus or something like that.
Yeah.
Uh, but I've
Yeah.
but I've seen them not always set up properly, right? Like at the end of the day, like those more calls didn't generate anything because it's easy to call. It's easy to put numbers up on the board, right? Like you can call anybody. So I wanted to talk to you about how to use them to incentivize better behavior. But in offline, you said something really interesting. So I get kind of controversial twist on the subject.
Well, essentially, if you need spiffs all the time to motivate your people, it's not very good. I don't. I don't particularly believe in spiffs, particularly in a consultative sales approach. Consultative. And I'll explain what I mean. I'll give you an analogy. If you have to give your kid a popsicle every time he has a bath, it's not very good. If you have to pay him to do his homework, and that's what I feel spiffs are like. This being said, um, we've talked about this before. You should be tracking your reps' activity. You should be helping them achieve the activity necessary, and you should be rewarding proper behavior. And if the proper behavior doesn't bring on results, then you have to question yourself what's wrong, right? Is it the product? Is it the individual? Is it whatever it is? So, and if you're throwing
Mm,
stiff at that, but you haven't fixed the problem, you might just be sugarcoating something and not fixing. This being
right.
said, I believe spiff should be done on results, not on activity.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
you're doing all your normal work on activities, and then your spiff can be done on results to maybe
Okay.
jar it up a little bit. But I also am not sure I believe in spiffs in a like I said, a consultative sale, a tactical sale. Maybe we've got I don't know 100 extra swing sets in the warehouse. We have to sell them within a week. Boom, spiff.
Right.
Whoever sells the most, that I'm okay with, but it's still not my favorite mode of motivation. And maybe I'm biased because they never really worked that well with me. Although I've won a few spiffs in my lifetime, I felt it was sort of I don't know. How can I say it? I find it's a little demeaning sometimes. If you're a sales professional, you're doing your job. You don't give a dentist a spiff if he fixes more cavities.
Right.
And I know it's controversial, and I know I'm quite opinionated on this, and because I think if you build the proper team and you have the proper approach and you're a team and you feel like you're a team, you shouldn't have to use spiffs. I find it's old school, and it's got a bit of it smells like Glengarry Glen Ross.
Nice, but I did like your idea though that it's true that maybe not tying it necessarily to I don't know, that's not exactly what you said, but not tying it necessarily to activities or even performance, but maybe more like, okay, there's stock to clear. Like we need to make room in the warehouse because we have the new orders coming in or we have the new product coming in
But that is
and stuff
performance.
like that.
That's on results. So if you've got
Right.
10 salespeople, and the first one to sell 20 units gets an extra $100 or something.
Right.
It might work in that kind of thing, but it's you're not. I don't think dealing with ultra sales professionals, and also you're turning into pushy salespeople, right? If you're giving a
Yeah.
if you're giving a spiff on something that's supposed to be helping your client, well, your reps are going to be concentrating on making their money, not helping their clients. So,
Right. And that's interesting.
yeah,
That's an interesting take because you're right. Like, and I think that was the kind of the initial purpose of my question. Like, is there a way to set up a split?
hey, it is 420, man. Yeah, maybe that's a little.
There we go. That's true.
I know
A little,
that 420.
a little spiff um, on. I know you said you don't like behavior, but I'm kind of trying to get like something that's more about the consolidated sale, right? Like moving inventory. You're right. Like there is a danger that you're going to try to sell this product to somebody who might not need it just because you're trying to get your reward. Like, is there a way to incentivize a bit more, like the actual behavior or the actual results that we want from customers, like from salespeople? Sorry, like which is like helping the customer.
Well, behavior and results is different, right? Behavior you control, results you don't. So
Mhm.
that's why I like to reward behavior, things that you control. I don't like to. I don't like to necessarily just reward. You can have a little bit of reward for obviously results, but I believe that the way you reward someone who does a job is because they did their job, right? Now
Mm.
you could give a little bonus if they overachieve or if they do well, but take this year. There's one industry, construction industry. I have a client who's selling some material in the construction industry. Well, all his reps are doing super well. Are they better than they were last year? Not necessarily. The environment makes it such that they're all surpassing their objectives.
Mm.
Um, it's fine if you pay them just on results. They're going to get big bonuses this year. But hey, they may have worked actually. If they may have worked harder, but they may not have done the same kind of work that you want them to do normally, which is sell. They might just be taking orders.
Right.
So that's why I like very much rewarding behavior, because then you can get people to get the better behavior to achieve um, the behavioral results, not the sales results.
Mm.
And a spiff to me is it's almost, well, we didn't build our plan properly, so we're going to throw some extra cash at them. But I agree
Right.
that when you've got extra inventory or some special situation, you can throw a spiff. But I
Yeah.
can tell.
Yeah. Like somebody bought the wrong stuff, and you have double what you're supposed to have, and let's see if we can move it. Have you ever seen it tied back though to some sort of a uh, customer sentiment of some sorts? Just because, like that said to me, like fine, okay, so like, the buyer bought too much, right? And now we have double the inventory. So
Yeah,
let's use a spiff to try to incentivize moving that.
like the NPS, you mean? Have I ever seen it tied back to NPS? Yeah,
Something like that.
some companies do that. They'll reward the whole team, saying, "Hey, we got a great NPS. We're doing super well. So we're everyone's going to get a bonus." But if the NPS is one factor, obviously in any company, what you're looking for are overall results, right? You want to be selling your product and doing
Mm.
well. Yeah, I mean that's I remember in the old days they used to call it a quantitative and a qualitative bonus, and they used to say qualitative, is how you present and all these things and what you're saying
Mm.
and whatnot, and then quantitative was numbers. But when you really think about it, quantitative should probably be your activity, and then qualitative should be the quality of how you do things, right?
Right.
But that's a little controversial. A lot of people say, no, no, I just want to give commission on what they sell, right? And I
Mm.
understand some business owners are like, okay, I don't really care how you get there as long as you sell the product, right?
Right.
So if this guy,
And that's a whole other ballgame, I
yeah,
guess. But
that's a whole other ball. And if you're a client of that business and you're well treated, fantastic. But if you're a client of that business and your NPS is not very good, well then it can make a difference. So really,
interesting.
I believe remuneration, particularly in sales, drives behavior. Your remuneration should drive behavior, which in turn behavior and when I say behavior, I'm encompassing everything. The types of activities you do, how much you work at getting better, the whole thing. And if your compensation rewards behavior, then your top people will get the results. And if they don't, that's because there's something wrong in your business model.
Mm. And so would you say if you're thinking about spiffs or contests or anything that kind of financially reward like some outcomes or some behavior, that you should maybe stop and think like, well, why is this outcome or why is this behavior not happening before just saying, hey, we're going to throw in an extra $1,000 for whoever.
Yes, I think you should.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's simple. It's like, hey, our supplier just dumped an extra 1,000 swing sets on us. Okay, well that has nothing to do with behavior, right? It's like, okay, guys, ABC supplier of swing sets just said we have all these swing sets and it's late April and they're taking room in the warehouse and I want them to be out of here by the end of May. Well, that's different. Then that has nothing to do with behavior. It has to do, well, we got this extra stock. Let's get rid of it.
Right. It's circumstantial.
Yeah, it's circumstantial. To me, in that type of situation, absolutely, Spiff's great. Like, okay,
Yeah.
do a little contest, it's going to be fun, But in a regular setting where, oh, we have an extra 1,000 swing sets and you manufacture it themselves and they just keep accumulating because your salespeople aren't doing well. Well, what's the problem? Are the swing sets, are they overpriced? Are your salespeople selling it to the wrong people? They're selling $10,000 swing sets to individuals in poor neighborhoods. Well, okay, well, you might be having a problem there. I'm just,
You're right.
I'm exaggerating, but do you see the point is that, it's circumstantial. So Spiffs, I'll change, you know what? Only crazy people don't change their mind. I'll change my mind. Spiffs are good in very specific instances. They shouldn't be a Band-Aid. Band-Aids are good when they're necessary. If you just put a Band-Aid on something and you're not fixing it, there's a problem,
Yeah. And I think it was from my conversations with you and then my experience, I think there's a guardrail to put around that, right? Like a spiff is, oh, well, it's the holidays, so sales are going to slow down. So I'm going to put a spiff to like boost people. I think that's a motivational issue. And there's maybe more of an issue in the sales force or a sales team. But if it's like you said, like my buyer just bought too much and he put a zero too much at the end of the order and we need to move this, then it could be fun because it's kind of a one-shot deal, right? It's not going to happen next year. It's not going to happen in 6 months or stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's an interesting conversation, and as you know, I've led some pretty large teams, and I've had to, from corporate, we were given the forcibility of imposing spiffs, and they never work. We were selling because basically they're saying, let's put a spiff on this. I hate to say give this, let's put lipstick on this pig and put a spiff on it and try to get it out there, right? So it's a terrible expression, but it's basically you've got something crappy sitting in the shed or inventory, and you're like trying to get rid of it, and it makes for for a bad customer experience, right? If they're trying to tell you something that's not necessary. Now, if what they're buying, if say, look, I've got this ugly duckling in the shed, and we got to get rid of it, and are you going to spend this on it? Well, okay, then that's different. Okay, I know I'm buying an ugly duckling, but I need some ducks in my lake, so ugly duckling.
I like how you stick with the analogy. Okay, interesting. So I think a good ground rule would be if you're encountering a one-time situation, like extra inventory because of a mistake or the supplier just dumped them or whatnot, spiff could be worth it. Otherwise, look into what's fueling this bad behavior or these bad results.
Yeah, and and I'll equate it back to your child, right? So if if you're trying to convince your kid who's I'll use a current get vaccinated, and they're 16, and let's say they're allowed to get vaccinated and they're petrified of vaccines. Well, you might say, and they love ribs. Okay, we'll eat ribs tonight after you get your vaccine. That's an acceptable spiff. If you're telling your kid every night, okay, if you do your homework, I'm going to give you some ribs. Well, that doesn't work so well, right?
Right.
You need to understand the value of your spiff and why you're doing it and what might be wrong. If you're not trying to fix something, then I'm okay with the spiff. If you're trying to fix something, then you're going about it the whole. It's like saying we have all these really bad cars on the lot. We'll reduce the price and let's say Ladas in the late 70s. You're trying to sell Ladas in the late 70s and they don't sell, and you're reducing the price and you're giving incentives to the salespeople. You know what? The consumers who are going to buy it might not be getting the real truth when they're buying the Lada.
Right. Good point. And something that just popped to mind, and maybe that's a question that I should try to answer more, but have you ever seen, in your work with salespeople, like their colleagues in marketing getting any sort of financial rewards?
That's a question that I'll swing right back onto you. I'm sure there is some form of spiffs in marketing, but sorry, I'm drawing a blank. You'll have to tell me where have you seen it, and or where could it be useful?
Yeah, I've never seen it, and it's something that I get asked once in a while. Um, so that's why I was hoping that maybe you had encountered it, but no, I haven't seen it, and I think you have to. What's up?
Well, let's say you're asking your marketing team to set something up with a really crazy time delay. You might try to incentivize them that way, right? Say, look, if we manage to do this, and your spiff can be days off.
No, but I think in the same vein as the sales team, right? Like you don't always want it to be either about the reward because speed of execution is one thing, but if it's like okay, but then there's a ton of spelling mistakes on the landing page, and because it just went quickly, I think then there's like probably a motivation problem, and you need to like dig deeper there as well.
Yeah.
I think a good marketing team is able to deliver things quickly. And I think like you, like in sales, right? Like I think if you're trying to incentivize lead generation, we're not getting enough leads. Let's try like you start getting into bad behavior potentially, like just trying to acquire bad leads just to get your numbers up. So I think I haven't seen it. I think a lot of people are not for it because in marketing there is a creativity element um, and a lot of people see there's a conflict between the financial spiff style reward and the creativity. That said, you could have team incentives. I've seen the team incentives and whatnot. What I personally don't like about the team incentives is that they're usually set up because if the boss likes going to a restaurant, well then the reward is we're all going to the restaurant together. But some team members might not enjoy that type of stuff, or they have kids at home and for them it's a nightmare because they have to get babysitters and stuff
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
more of a pain than yeah. No, that's a good point. But it's funny because I was watching. Have you seen that series *Halt and Catch Fire* on Netflix?
No.
Well, it just made me think of something. Like if you know your competitor is coming out with this super duper software or computer hardware of sorts, and you're like, okay, we want to beat them to it. I can just imagine Steve Jobs in the '80s saying, okay, if we get this done by this date, you're getting X. The whole company is getting X reward. Well,
Yeah.
that's a form of spiff, and that's not an everyday form of spiff. That's sort of like, okay, we're rolling up our sleeves to try to do some extra work, right?
Yeah, but again, I mean, I would, I'd be careful for that because I mean, if your team can't be motivated to deliver something quickly, because unless they get a reward, I think there might be some other. I'm not saying it's a no no, and I'm not saying you can't reward your team. I'm just saying that like incentivizing something. I think in marketing, the bigger danger is it could lead to bad behavior, right? Because if you're like,
my,
let's just
Yes, I agree with you. It can lead to bad behavior. I much prefer, on that note, you're right. It can totally lead to bad behavior because you're like they're always going to be expecting the spiff.
yeah.
Let me give you another kid analogy. Is that at the end of year, school year, your kid's done super well. Then you tell them, hey, you did so well this year. I'm going to buy you a new bike.
Yeah.
That's great because the kid worked hard and then he got a bonus.
Right.
I prefer that form. Hey, you guys worked really hard. The company
Exactly.
made more margin. They got a $10 million deal. You know what? Everyone's getting a paid vacation to Hawaii this year.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Exactly.
That's a reward rather than
A reward. And I think that works maybe a little bit better because like that's it. Next time you have a rush project, they're going to be expecting a spiff, and if there isn't any, because let's say this year things are a little tighter than they were last year, we can't afford. Then you're already demoralizing the team, right? Like they're expecting that extrinsic reward. So I have to say I haven't seen a lot of compensation. I know some companies do it. They compensate sales marketing teams as well for targets achieved and stuff like that. Which is doable. It's okay. I think it's just I see it more on a commission style thing, right? If you're doing the stuff, you're achieving your targets, we'll get something like a spiff, like a one-off in marketing. I mean, maybe in the case like let's say our hypothetical case, right? We have extra swings to deliver. Let's put together a campaign, and if we could get rid of those swings, like the team gets a. I think marketing maybe having this individual reward, like hey, you run Google Ads, so you get the reward, is maybe wouldn't work as much.
yeah. Well,
But yeah.
yeah, and that's interesting. And you're making me think of something else too. Is that I'd love to hear from people listening to us who totally disagree with us. So please chat and send us some insults. Or
Yeah.
I it's interesting because I think you and I are on the same side of the fence on this one, right? So we talk, it's logical, and I think you and I have both been very motivated by what we do.
Mm.
Now, of course, I won't lie to you. I've worked in certain jobs where the commission was very important, but I knew what I had to do, and that was part of the plan. Like commission's very different. It's like if I
Yeah.
sell this, I make that much. Well, that's part of your job. That's okay. But
Right.
when you're saying on top of that, I'm giving you a spiff on top of it. Uh, the one thing I do like is accelerators. So
Right.
let's say you have a target of $10 million this year in sales. Well, when you hit that $10 million, you can have an accelerator target. Say, okay, well, instead of making 0.001 commission, you're now making 0.001.5. 0.0015. So, you've just given me a 50% increase on my commission. That I'm okay with that because again, it's written in the contract at the beginning of the year, and you're working towards something.
Right.
Out of the blue, hey, we got this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like the VP of sales looking all good because he's throwing some extra cash at a few people who are gonna get the deal anyways. Whatever. I'm have a harder time with it.
Yeah, and I think, and maybe we can end on that. But I think you're right. I think that ultimately, maybe it does illustrate that there's maybe some challenges on the motivation side of the team, but it might also indicate that there's actually problems on the managerial side of things, right? If you feel that no, but you're right. Like you just said it, right? Like,
the most important thing of the whole podcast. That's exactly it, Fab. That's
if you always feel that last minute we have all this inventory. Well, why did you wait till last minute and why you're incentivizing it now? Like, because then it's like on the B2C side, right? Customers know that if a company is always putting stuff on special, well, they're going to wait till things are in special to buy, right? Except maybe a few handful that'll buy it at full price. Most people will wait. A lot of people will wait for the special. So it's the same thing. Salespeople know, like, listen, management is disorganized. If we wait until August, we're going to get a massive spiff if we can move this inventory.
Yeah, totally. And you're 100% right. And I've seen that too. And it's often, strategy or management, right? And high level management, or even like it's you're totally right. That's the problem. If you have to use spiffs all the time, look at yourself. Look at your belly button,
All right.
Very,
Cool,
very
Paul.
wise. That's good. You hit the bell. If I had a bell, it would have rang it. Ding!
Excellent. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Fab.
Have a good day.
You too.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.